Let's talk about that decision for you guys to come out a few days ago with a very clear message that you'll be hiking 75 at your next meeting. Well, my first question is, you always tell us you're only one vote. Do we take it then that the entire monetary board is also on board with a hike of that size?
Yes, I would not have been this clear if I was not sure that I had at least, well, maybe it could even be unanimous. But I'm not sure about that,
okay.
But I'm sure that it's more than more than majority.
Right. Now, the 7.7% inflation
majority.
print, what do you make of it? Why is it so hot?
Well, the good thing about it is it's due to one-off shocks. Okay, so usually when this is caused by food prices, the experience is the food prices, even though they don't go down, the rate of increase eventually normalizes. So, for instance, we expect inflation this year to be what? To average, because the beginning of the year was low, it will average 5.7% this year. And next year, it should average close to 4% because the second half will be between 3 and 4 in the second half. That's the forecast, and the reason we raise the policy rate is we want to make sure. Well, we will never be sure. We want to increase the likelihood that by the second half of next year, the headline inflation would be within target, and unless there are new shocks, that will be true as well in the rest of 2024.
So, Governor, can I ask you a follow-up question? When do you think inflation will peak then? And what are you actually seeing as the upsized risk to prices in the near term?
Well, it will peak before the end of this year. Of course, anything can happen, right? But our best guess is that it will peak either next month or the last month of the year. So either this month or the last month of the year. So indeed, our forecast is by the second half of next year, it will be below 4 already.
Okay. Governor, I want to ask you about your comments this week on the 75, just to go take it back there too, because that's related. Well, one is, why not just do an off-cycle move? One part of the question. The second part of that is, was that decision to come out midweek after the Fed mainly or purely to target the exchange rate?
No, it's just that we don't want to be selling too much dollars. So the best way to do that is make the markets know in advance what we will do. Of course, we still have a lot of reserves, but we don't want to use too much.
So, Governor, are there other tools that the central bank is looking at that can allow the authority to keep the exchange rate stable right now?
Well, I think we have enough reserves, and I think our interest rates are sufficiently well positioned relative to the Fed, because right now they're 4, right, 3.75 to 4. So with the policy rate increase, ours will be 5. So that's a comfortable margin between the two policy rates. So I think the formula is quite simple. A comfortable margin between the two policy rates and strategic use of our reserves will make the exchange rate more stable.
The two main policy tools. Governor, then, can I follow up on that? If the Fed goes to 5 and the market thinks the Fed will go to 5, do you follow them step by step? Do you go to 6 or above?
Well, it also depends on the inflation picture. For instance, if it's clear already that the inflation rate is decelerating, we may not have to match. But if the inflation rate remains high, then we have to match.
You talked about the
so
political
it's too soon
pressures
to say.
when the peso hits record lows, Governor. I wonder, are those pressures unavoidable?
Okay, let's put it this way. Inflation redistributes income. Changes in the exchange rate redistributes income. And the distribution of income in the short run is more powerful than economic growth. So if you do surveys of people, the level of dissatisfaction is much higher during high periods of inflation than it would rise as the economy grows faster. So to the everyday person, high inflation is much more untenable or unacceptable than lower growth rates. So that's the simple fact. That's how people are affected. The other way to look at it is
Governor, Governor, I wanted to ask about the optics too. I think perhaps if I'm guessing correctly, this is maybe where you're going. The optics is because we heard from the Finance Secretary, Governor Jokno, who of course was part of the BSP, is still part of the Monetary Board. He said 60. That's we're not going to cross 60 on the Philippine currency. So my question is, politics and economics mix. How much communication, I'll ask you directly, are you getting, not just from Governor Jokno or Secretary Jokno, but from the President himself?
Well, the Secretary Jokno and I discussed these things. In fact, we saw each other just yesterday because a common friend of ours had a birthday. But the difference between me and him is, I don't take, to me 60 is a fuzzy number. It could be 60.1, 59.5. So I don't want to draw a line in the sand. Because from the point of view of using our reserves efficiently, it's not a good idea to draw a line in the sand. But more or less having the same effect. Okay, I keep saying the difference between 59.5, 59.6, and 60, or even 60.1, 60.2, and 60 is not something very large from the point of view of both macroeconomics and the welfare of individual citizens. So to me, if we will be able to use our reserves more efficiently if we're not stuck with a single number, but getting more or less the same results from the point of view of inflation.
Yeah, the one thing I'm finding about the BSP is that you guys are always just so transparent about your thinking, which is quite refreshing as a financial journalist. And I have to wonder, how important do you think is communications or moral suasion when it comes to influencing markets? How do you view that?
Well, the nice thing about having credibility is when the central bank issues statements, markets take it seriously. But we also do know that markets respond to a lot more things than what the BSP is doing. So, but our general rule is the more predictable we are, the better. Other things equal.